hear the story first. Like, how did you get into this, and how you want to actually think about nature, because the people look at the alcohol in a different perspective. But the way I want to, if you can start your story, where you start this, and how why you want to start this, and that will give you a brief, and based on that, I'll have questions.
Okay. Yeah, so we essentially started our story with Agave, Indian Agave, right? That's the name of our company, Agave India. And that story carried on for quite a while before we decided to look into Mahua as a potential product that we could make, because we had encountered it just by the way in the early 2000s, and then kept it aside because it was deemed a country alcohol. And we were not a country alcohol manufacturer. We were making agave spirits at international quality, and under the general title or rubric or category of IML, Indian Made Liquor, or IMFL in some states. These are tax categories, and they are also categories wherein if you make IML or IMFL in one state, you can send it to another state, whereas country liquor is restricted to the state in which it is made. So the first, I'd say, task was to get government officials to agree to do this in Andhra, because we fall in the state of Andhra, divided Andhra, that is.
Part of Andhra?
It's the southern part of Andhra. It's a district called Annamaya district.
Oh, okay.
And it's not too far from Rishi Valley High School or Rishi Valley School. That part of the erstwhile Chittoor district. Okay, so the point is that Mahua was something we thought would take a lot of work from a bureaucratic standpoint, and yes, in fact, it did. In 2013, when we had already launched our agave products and a couple of other things in the formal market, and started getting attention nationally and internationally as well, we decided to see what we could do for Mahua. So we applied for permissions to make it officially in our distillery. So for that, it took a good 4 years to convince the government that a company like ours, a distillery like ours, could make Mahua at international quality levels, because we had already made other products at those levels, and that we wanted to move. We wanted to create and sell this Mahua in different states. So it took. After that time, we finally got permission. It was a long story. We won't get into it now. Then we also had to convince another state where we bottle and package our products, which is the state of Goa, to allow this new alcohol, if you will, to be bottled and packaged and sold by us. So that took another year or so. Eventually, it's only in 2017-18 that we had all of the whole chain, namely from raw materials that start in central forest belt of India, which would at that time have been Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, MP. And we started sourcing from tribal people there and bringing those flowers to our site and making it with all the required permissions in place. So it was only in 2018 that we were able to launch a formal Mahua in the Goa market. And then since then, we have just taken it to Karnataka and Maharashtra. So each place you have to apply for permissions, even as an IMFL. Now, that is not our vision for Mahua. Our vision, which we have shared with many states, these are all Mahua producing states. There are a total of 13 roughly, because some states questionable how much Mahua they have. But the major states would be 5-6 with 100,000 tons of Mahua kind of annual output. So these states we've been engaging with and suggesting a common policy that keeps tribal welfare and tribal culture well on the table and respects that. So either we're improving the situation for tribal culture and livelihood, or we are at least keeping it the same. We're not making it worse. So these policy suggestions were all geared towards that. And the states we've been engaging with states like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, to some extent Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha for some time now, many years actually. And a couple of states have taken some concrete actions, like MP did a lot. It declared, one of the things we used to say is, please declare it to be a regional heritage alcohol of your state. Because there was a long-term plan for each state to declare their own regional alcohols and then to create a standard and a tax category for these regional alcohols that was much less than IML and IMFL, but slightly above country liquor, so it could be regulated. So this, each state is doing their own thing. So our aim is that if this heritage alcohol category becomes formalized by different states, then they can recognize each other's heritage alcohols, and then these heritage alcohols could be sold across state borders, which would enlarge their markets in India. So that is, there are a whole lot of other things that we suggested to improve livelihood, having studied the whole supply chain involved in Mahua, the role of middlemen, the role of go-downs, and so on, so as to keep as much money in tribal pockets as possible. These are some of the things we have done, but we have done it while we were solving our own issues of supply and quality. We sort of almost, you could credit us with defining the concept of food grade Mahua in the space of alcohol, and also in the space of perhaps, I mean, it also translates into food products that use Mahua flowers. But food grade Mahua is a whole category of Mahua now. It's a very tiny category. States are experimenting with it. You will see experiments going on in Chhattisgarh, in MP, in Maharashtra, and so on. Some states are ahead of others. Now, you should study something that happened. Conrad, can you talk about the National Mahua Conclave and what we did there?
Yeah, I just want to provide the context for Mahua first, because Desmond, they may not have the entire picture of Mahua. Mahua is the only spirit in the world that is distilled from a naturally sweet flower. So it's a one-of-a-kind spirit. The Mahua trees grow in 13 states of India, where it is very significant to the livelihood and culture of very many tribes that live in these 13 states. The Mahua trees grow in India and almost nowhere else in the world. When it comes to livelihood, a lot of tribal families depend on up to 30% of their annual income from the sale of sun-dried Mahua flowers. It is a part of all their celebrations, be it births, deaths, weddings, and festivals. And they call the tree Kalpa Vriksha, or tree of life, because it provides them food, fuel, and fodder. So Mahua is a very, very significant aspect of tribal culture and potentially national heritage spirit of India. So Madhya Pradesh, as Desmond mentioned, is the only state that has actually gone ahead and done something favorable for Mahua as a spirit, and it has given grants and set up, I think, 3 distilleries and 2 brands that we know of Mahua spirits that are produced at high standards. And our vision for Mahua is for it to become a national heritage spirit with hopefully a GI at some point.
Good. So, the next question, I really thank you so much, the kind of research what you've done already in the supply chain, what you're building. So, I want to hear more about the livelihood space. Like you said, you are added value for a lot of tribals, and you're able to help them to deep pockets to fill their kind of big profits. I'll be interested more on, because our intention is every natural product, how the local people can be empowered. So if you can throw a light, something which is any good story, any location specific, that will be great.
Basically, Conrad can talk about what happens typically currently 99.9% of what's going on out there with tribal people, and how really money is leaving their pockets rather than staying in their pockets with respect to the simple collection of Mahua, sale of Mahua, storage of Mahua, repurchase of Mahua, and making of Mahua spirit. We can talk briefly about that. And that itself is a money in the pocket suggestion what we have.
Okay, so the Mahua economy is very unique. The Mahua tree flowers for a period of 1 month between March through May, typically in the 13 states that produce Mahua. And the tribals collect the Mahua flowers, they sun-dry them, and in the peak Mahua season, they sell bulk of the sun-dried flowers for various reasons. One is to have access to cash during the lean agriculture season. The second is very many states have rules and regulations regarding how much Mahua can be kept in households. So for these reasons, they sell the Mahua flowers after sun-drying them in the peak Mahua season. Those flowers are bought typically by non-tribals who accrue them from the local hart to the mandi and then finally reach them to cold storage. These same flowers will come back during the festival season of the tribal people, typically October onwards, from the cold storage back into the local village harts and are sold at almost double the price, sometimes even more than double the price. So if the non-tribals are buying from the tribals at rupees in the peak Mahua season, during the festival season, they're selling it at 80 rupees back to the tribal people. The non-tribals do not actively add any value to the Mahua apart from storing it in cold storage for a period of 4 to 11 months.
So they're keeping the Mahua they need for their purpose in their own local MOA Bank, a few villages together, hygienically, etc. And they use it when they need, but from their own bank. So they have evaluated that is all the rest they can sell in the open market. And the food grade Mahua, of course, with certain branding and all that, can be sold over the internet at much higher values, including on a certain scale to companies like ours or to companies that make energy products from cereals and so on and so forth. There are a number of uses even in Ayurveda for Mahua flowers. So the food grade stuff can go to those people at a much higher prices, and that can happen through the year. But a local Mahua storage bank is critical to that, and people are looking at that proposal and seeing how they can manage it.
Thank you so much. So I think my interest is because more in the future collaboration is on value add and economic, and we do have an NBFC where the money can be we are looking at the smart villages concept, smart towns concept, future their transportation, their food habits, everything. Because see, if you look at the Mahua itself, even the pregnant ladies, they have benefits, a lot of healthy benefits are there. So actually that's where I look at because see, for you required only a flower, example, like maybe making your thing. But I see other benefits also in that particularly, including the Ayurvedic medicine. So what we are, so it's all about an individual choice, how they balance from the nature products. So as you rightly said, even the beginning I said, my even auntie used to do. And there are people who are addicted. There are people who are very health benefit. They wanted to, as just a decent kind of consumption they used to do. We have also seen that. It's an individual choice. End of the day, right? That will not be one. So, but everything, at the end of the day, how do we add value for the local? I'm more interested in taking offline the next development discussion.
Right. Now, in this context, let us just throw in something, because you might be able to get further along with it than we will. There is a need for a consolidation of information, data, research, proper, vetted research as opposed to casual stuff. And we are highly recommending that there be eventually a national institute for Mahua, like a research institute for Mahua that serves all the tribal people in all the states, and based roughly on the model that like the National Rice Institute or the National Citrus Institute. Any produce of economic value of a certain size seems to deserve an institute, and Mahua certainly is crying for one, because there are any number of Mahua varietals currently growing naturally in various parts in the forest belt of central India, and we have seen a few of them already. There's also, I presume, the corresponding feed stock, the seed stock, and there has not been any kind of history of planting of Mahua trees. Mahua trees seem to just have been there. Nobody has been interested in planting new ones. Nature is taking its course, but there is some evidence that Mahua plantations are decreasing, and there's a guy who connected with us who's doing research on that area. We can connect you with him. He was doing research in West Bengal on whether Mahua, the number of Mahua trees was increasing, decreasing, or whatever. We don't know the results of his study, but his name is Abhijit Dey. Make a note of it and ask us for his contact. PhD scholar, and he's doing this as part of his research. Now, what we are proposing, and if you can push this idea, because before any kind of franchising concept that you might do, it would be good to have a national Mahua research center. It can start small in some state, one of the big Mahua states, perhaps Maharashtra, MP, Chhattisgarh, and so on, and can then be slowly over the years, enlarged in terms of scope, depending on. So there are things like seed stock, best practices for food grade Mahua, best practices for distilling Mahua, then all kinds of potential research into health benefits of fresh Mahua flowers versus alcohol, debunking certain myths. Basically a resource center for anybody who wants to do anything in Mahua, whether from a social entrepreneurship standpoint or even a private public thing or a private thing.
Thank you very much, and very happy.